please begin.
Well, thank you everybody for joining. I know this is 5 o'clock on a Sunday, so you're taking your time out to listen to me and hopefully blow some hot air and hopefully you guys can take some gems away. One of the things that is important for me from a financial standpoint is setting goals. And you'll hear me talk about how to set goals, what goals you guys should be looking for financially for the new year. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about before we start, and you can use the raise your hand feature if you want. I know that normally in these presentations, you folks kind of talk at the end and have questions. But before we start, one of the things that I would like to do is talk about how did your financial goals go for the year of 2020. Now, depending on who I'm asking and how this actually is, this could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. But if you guys want to go at least on mute or off of mute for now, how did actually your financial goals go for 2020? Don't be afraid. I mean, there's no really right or wrong answer.
Hey guys, this is Deji. Yeah. Oh, sorry, it's my son. So yeah, so my goals for being debt free, I'm kind of still on the verge of paying down my student loan. I did fairly well. I'm just kind of continuing the process. I haven't completed it though, but I would say I stuck to my plan, which was basically sticking with the loan I consolidated and paying extra on my student loan whenever I had a chance, which was, maybe 50% an additional payments each month, 50% to 100%, as much as I could tolerate. So that's what as far as 2020, I think that was my main thing with debt. As far as debt's concerned, and financially, I opened up a backdoor Roth, which I did on my own it wasn't that hard to do. So that was a big deal for me, because now I'm trying to catch up on retirement. So those are two of the main things that stand out right now.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody didn't hit their financial goals?
Hi, this is Falake. So one of my goals for 2020 was actually to pay off. I have 2 credit cards. So I wanted to pay off both credit cards by the end of 2020 and also pay off my car. So basically what I did was, I kind of calculated it and figure out how much I needed to pay every 2 weeks to pay it all off. So, and that's what I was doing. And I was actually able to pay off my car, and I paid off 1 credit card, but I wasn't able to complete the second credit card. But I am on track though to pay it off by the end of March. So, but it was 2020, there was COVID, there was family, I had a baby, I had to extend my maternity leave. So things happened that just kind of, hindered me from completing my goal, but I definitely am still on track and, working on it.
I like it.
I could go next. I have something. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. One of my financial goals for 2020 was to, generate second source of income, right? I think I wasn't able to achieve it, but I'm glad I didn't lose my job during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, I have close friends, coworkers that were able to lose, that lost their job, right? So that's one of my, I was trying to get into real estate, either start teaching, some kinds of things, right? But I wasn't able to achieve my goals, other distractions that came in, travel plans and things like that. But I think I'm a better track. I'm in a better track, from 2021 standpoint. That's one of my goals, that I have for 2021 is kind of generate a second source of income.
See, here's the reason why I asked this question. You guys can go on mute if you want. If you noticed, in most of the stories, something happened. Now, I see some kids on the screen, so I don't want to use the word I really want to use, right? But things happened during 2020 that stopped you. There's an expression for some of you who may be religious, which is when you plan, God laughs, right? Because what happens is that we as humans think that we can always plan everything out to the T. And then if you take yourself back to January when you were planning your goals, right? You had everything set. If someone came to you and said, hey, here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a global pandemic that's going to basically shut down the world. You're going to be trapped in your house. And there's going to be complete political unrest. People are going to be storming the streets, on multiple occasions. And then going into 2021, you're not sure what's going to happen. Good luck. You'd probably freak out. So the reason why I asked this question is because the only way for you to set goals for 2021 is to know where you came from, right? So we've all heard this expression on Instagram, right? New year, new me. And what do we do as Black folk? The first thing we do is we throw them right under the bus, right? Because these are the same people every year that come and they say that we're going to try something different. They're going to do something different. And you see the post come up, right? Where people go, you know what? Oh, I can't stand these people. Every year is a new year, new me. I actually like those people because they're willing to change. And there's an expression by Jim Rome who said, for things to change for you, you have to change. And it's hard for people to change. So imagine to yourself, what would happen this year if you set the right financial goals and you went for, let's say, 6 of them or 7 and you hit 5? How far along the road would you be compared to your peers? You see, a new year gives you the ability to do 3 things. It gives you the ability to reflect, which is what you just did. It gives you the ability to adjust your vision for the new year. And it gives you the ability to change your habits to become a better you. And I'll talk about towards the end how you guys can actually implement this. But don't feel bad that you're trying to figure out what your new year, new me is going to be. It's perfectly fine to do that. And don't let anybody stop you from doing it, because all it takes is 1 year for you to set the rest of your life up. Now, what should your goals be for 2021 financially? Now, if you noticed, there were different goals here: pay off credit cards, pay off debts, 401k, side hustle, right? These are all legitimate goals, and each one of them should be addressed in their own light. I kind of categorize most goals into 3 different buckets. I think everybody should have a savings goal, an investment goal, and a tithing goal, right? Tithing meaning charity. Now, I am well aware of the people I'm talking to. When I say the tithing goal, most people are going to start rolling their eyes at this point, right? Because investing sounds fun and savings, you need to do. But all 3 of these, in my opinion, are critical, especially among Black people, to succeed. So the first one that I wanted to start off with is a savings goal. So there's a great book. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. If you guys can see the screen. I know you guys said you're going to start a book club. I would strongly suggest this be on the book club. And it's a book on personal finance. It has no numbers, right? This is more of a reason why you want to have that book on maybe your book list one of these years. But one of the central themes of the book, if you watch any of the videos I've ever done on YouTube or Instagram, I always end the video the same, which is a part of all that you earn is yours to keep. If there's ever one gem, if there's anything you take from this presentation in terms of the goals that you want to set for this year, always remember that a part of all that you earn is yours to keep. So what do I mean by that? Your savings is where you preserve your wealth. It's not sexy though, compared to investing, right? It's kind of boring when you think about it. Trying to get an account that gives you maybe 0.5% on your interest and just putting money away that just sits there and you do nothing with it. It's boring, but boring is good from a preservation of wealth standpoint, right? I'll give you guys an example. I want everybody, there's about 50 people on here, probably of different ages. I want you guys to really consider something. Imagine you've been working for 10 years, right? Most of you probably been working for 10 years. And take the average after-tax income that you've received every year. So for example, let's say you made, I don't know, 70,000 a year. By the time you take home, or by the time you deduct taxes, Social Security, your 401k distribution, the money that actually comes into your account, maybe it's like 50 grand of cash, liquid that goes into your account. Take that number and times it by 10. That number has crossed your hands over the last 10 years. Now, here's the depressing part. Take that number and compare it to what's in your savings and ask yourself, how much of that did you keep? So, in the example I just gave you, if your after-tax income after 401k deductions, after everything was 50 grand, over the last 10 years, you had $500,000 cross your bank account. How much of that did you keep? You don't have to say it, but that's the reflection. A part of all that you earn is yours to keep. That has nothing to do with whether or not you're spending it here or spending it there. $500,000 had crossed your hands over 10 years. What did you do with it? You see, your savings is where you allow unexpected expenses to become minor inconveniences. Have you noticed the minute you start saving money and wanting to change your life, that's when an emergency happens? Right? There's a thing called Murphy's Law, right? What is Murphy's Law? Anything wrong that can happen will happen, right? You ever notice the minute you want to change your life is when everybody wants to test you? The reason why you have to stay consistent, though, with your savings is that you want these unexpected expenses to become minor inconveniences. Right now, I'm driving a car that does not have the radio working, and it sucks. I had to take it to the dealership and all this kind of stuff. They're telling me it's going to cost over $1,000. Now, on a normal day, this sucks. But because I have a savings and I have a sinking account for that, I can be able to take the hit. I'll give you another example. For folks in here who may have read stories and books back in the day about castles, right? The medieval times. You guys remember what the moat was? The moat was the water that surrounded the castle. The bigger the moat, the less likely your intruders are going to get to the castle. Well, your moat is your savings. Okay. For some people on the phone, there is no moat. Any intruder that comes is going to come take your castle. Some people have a pretty wide moat, right? A bigger moat is going to protect you from, any intruders. The bigger your savings, the more likely you're going to be able to take a hit. All you have to do is remember what March was like last year when a lot of people lost their jobs. So just take that into account. My recommendation in this instance is to save 10% of your income. Why 10? Because it's just a number that everybody remembers. Okay. You can ask people, I'm pretty sure it's mathematically feasible, but if you want a number, choose 10. The only way for you to know if you can do 10%, by the way, is to do a budget. So I'm hoping maybe one of these courses that you guys will do over the next couple of months is how to create a budget and how to actually go through the process of going through and seeing what your expenses are and not lying to yourself. But in my opinion, you should save 10% of your income, regardless of what your 401k allocation is, regardless of what you want to do with investing. 10% of your income should go to yourself. Remember, a part of all that you earn is yours to keep. The second goal is investing. Now, this is where everybody's ears are going to perk up, right? We just came off of 2020. Everybody's having a lot of fun. So there was a motivational speaker I told you guys from before. His name was Jim Rohn. And he said, why not work full-time at your job and part-time on your fortune, right? Why not take a part of your time every day to work on making yourself rich, making yourself wealthy? So what is your investing goal? This is where you build your wealth. If you noticed, I'm having two separate goals here. One saving, one is investing. The reason why those are separate is because they're supposed to be separate. You don't use your savings to invest and you don't invest for your savings, right? Those are two different mentalities. That's why there's two different buckets. Now, when I say investing, a lot of people think about stocks. Remember, this is agnostic of just stocks. It could be stocks, bonds, real estate, private investment. Maybe you participate in giving people loans with interest. Maybe you put money into your own business every month. That's what investing is. Investing is having your money make you money. It creates the financial independence. Remember, savings is where you preserve your financial wealth. Your financial independence is where you grow your money, right? That's where you actually are, your money is making you money. Now, my recommendation is that a portion of your income should go to your investing goal. Again, could be your own business, real estate, whatever it is. And it should be roughly 10%. Again, the only way for you to know how to do this is to do your budget to see what's feasible, right? Some of you have kids, some of you have spouses, some of you have other engagements that you have to deal with, but a portion of your income every month should go to investing and growing your income. Now, for some of you, you may not want to do the investing like everybody else is doing, and you think this is all a sham, and perfectly fine. Just remember, if you have a 401k, mind you, that's investing. So maybe your investing goal is just to increase your allocation to your retirement account. Maybe some of you are at 5%, maybe increase it to 7. You're more likely to become a millionaire through your 401k than anything else. I'll say that one more time for folks. You're more likely to become a millionaire through your retirement account than you are through anything else. It's statistically proven. Not flipping houses, not flipping stocks, not anything else. You're more statistically prone to become a millionaire through your 401k if you invest early and you stay diligent. Now, I was debating putting this slide because I didn't want to be the guy to just pour cold water on everybody's, hot flames of investing. But I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't do this. 2020 was not, and I repeat, was not a normal year for investing. I have been investing, me personally, for basically 11 years, probably 15 off and on. I've seen what market downturns look like. I've seen what regular years have looked like. What you saw last year was not normal. And it's unfortunate that in our own community, this is what people are accustomed to now because they don't know what the other side of this looks like, right? Any stock that can go up 100% can drop the same amount. So I work with investment firms. So I'm a chartered financial analyst that works as a compliance consultant with investment firms. And one of the disclosures that they have to have from a regulatory perspective, the SEC, right, is that past performance is not indicative of future results, right? What does that mean? That means what happened before ain't going to happen going forward. It's not likely. And you have to understand that there are going to be some years when you invest where the markets go down, where your investments don't make sense, where you start to lose money. So things like options, SPACs, Bitcoin, Tesla, all these hot names that people keep hearing and throwing their money at, that's fine. I am not going to be the one to tell you not to get your money. However, be cognizant of your goal. Your goal is to build long-term wealth. It's not to be rich tomorrow. So be careful of any sure investment. Be careful of anything like that. Again, something you guys mentioned earlier is that you want to start a book club. So there's a great book. It's called The Random Walk Down Wall Street. And I can honestly tell you, so I have an MBA in finance and I hold the Chartered Financial Analyst designation. That book is the closest book that I've seen that comes close to articulating what investing is supposed to be. It goes into everything. It goes into the history of investing, goes into what investing is, what is long-term investing, what are the things you should be looking for. I highly recommend everybody to read it. If there's two books, for sure, it's The Richest Man in Babylon, and it's also A Random Walk Down Wall Street. It's worth the read. If you don't want to buy the book, obviously audio, but it's absolutely 100% worth the read. Now, tithing, right? This is the one that doesn't sound as sexy. And I bring this up because when I first started doing this in terms of having a YouTube page and having an Instagram channel, this started because of the social unrest that happened. I believe it was April and May, probably. And one of the passions that I had in life and one of my purposes in life goes something like this. It goes, my purpose in life is to teach Black people about finance in such a way that they can be more charitable. And the reason why is because we as Black people can help ourselves quicker than the government can, right? So if you're waiting for the government to pay off your student loans, if you're waiting for them to give you, money for whatever, you're going to be waiting a long time. This is the same government that has oppressed us as Black people for 400 years. What do you think is going to happen for the next 4? So be careful here. But there's no exercise better for your heart than reaching down and lifting people up. You see, your tithing goal is where you give your wealth away, right? This is where, in general, this is where you help people. And now, when I say tithing, you know what the first thing people think of? They think of church. Well, what happens if you're not religious? That's fine. I'm a Christian, but maybe some people aren't. It's agnostic of religion. The point is to part away with some of your money so you can help other people. Now, think about this for a second. How many of you know family members, if they just had a little bit of help, could get out of the hell that they're in? Just a little bit. Maybe there's a car they're trying to pay off that just has been haunting them for weeks now or for years. And if they just had a little bit of help, they can get out of it. Right? Think about the social organizations that we've heard about throughout the year that can help us. These are all things that you can do as part of your tithing goal. See, it creates charitable giving. And I can honestly tell you that I save and I invest. I have a sizable investment account. I have a sizable savings account. I have, 6 months, 8 months of expenses saved up. I'm debt free. I can do what I want. The most fun that I have, though, is the charitable goal. Because I can help my family directly, I can help my friends directly, and I do it quietly behind the scenes, and I'll never see this money again. It's not my money as far as I'm concerned. So don't be afraid to have a charitable goal. Maybe you can't do 10%, but maybe a goal for you for the year is like, you know what? $500 this year I'm giving away, just quietly. I'm giving it away, whether in church, whether to family members, you're just giving it away quietly. You don't hold it over nobody's head. You get more than what you put out, right? That's karma. So if you do something one time, karma gives it back to you twice, right? That's how it usually goes. Now, here's the thing about goals. You got to be smart about them, right? If you guys have heard about SMART goals, right? Where something has to be specified, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Right? You got to make sure the goals that you make this year, even if they're not financial, have to be SMART goals because that's the way that you're going to be able to move yourself throughout the year. Remember, things happened, right? Last year, you had a pandemic, social unrest, job losses, death, the whole 9 yards. What do you think is going to happen years from now? These things happen. So you got to have SMART goals. Your goal has to be specific. That's why I love money. It's specific. Right? Who, what, when, and where. So if you want to say, I want to save money, that's not enough. I want to save 10% of my income. Now you're talking, right? Specific. Don't just be general about it. Has to be measurable, right? Again, finance is measurable. So you can say, I want to save $100. I want to pay off my car. I want to pay off my student loans. I want to pay off my credit card on my car by March. Right? You set a goal, a date that you hold yourself accountable to. It has to be achievable. Now, I am well aware of the people I'm talking to. It's 5:30 on a Sunday, and you came to hear somebody who you've never heard before, which means all of you have the mentality to want to achieve something, right? You all are go-getters. There's no reason why you'd be wasting your time right now. However, we are all also prone to thinking that we can achieve more than what we can do. So you want to make sure that your goals are achievable. They need to motivate you. They need to stretch you, but they don't need to deter you. They don't need to discourage you. I'll give you an example. If your goal this year is to, let's say, invest 40% of your income, well, that may not be achievable. You haven't even done your budget yet, right? How do you even know you can do that? So don't do a goal that's not achievable. Do something that'll make you stretch, but don't do something that's going to make you completely discouraged, right? It has to be relevant as well. So your financial goals have to be relevant to where you want to be 10 years from now, right? Make sure your future self thanks you for the present, right? Don't ever forget that. A lot of us, are in our 20s and our 30s, some in our 40s, whatever. How fast did the last 10 years go of your life? What did you wish you could have done 10 years ago compared to now? Well, guess what? 10 years from now, you're going to be looking at this exact moment saying, damn, I wish I did that. Right? So make sure your goals are relevant to what you want to achieve in life. and make sure it's time bound. So what I mean by that is by this year, December 31st, you should have achieved all your goals. There is no such thing as carryover. Now, it may happen, things happen, but make sure you have deadlines, and maybe you have deadlines throughout the year. So don't just make sure all your goals are done by 12/31, because that means you're going to have a lot of pressure come October, right? You're going to look and go, oh, crap. And then you're going to try to do everything. You're going to be miserable. It's just not going to feel good. So have time-bound goals throughout the year that build up to the end goal. So if your goal for the year is to save 10 grand, well, break it up. First quarter, I want to save 2,500, right? By June, I want to save 5,000, and so on and so forth until you build there. Have small goals to build to the big one. Now, there's two other things I want to bring up before we turn this over. Accountability for me is extremely important. I'm one of those friends that when you tell me something and you say you're going to do it, I'm the one that brings it up later and said, hey, did you do it? I'm the annoying one, for sure. No doubt about it. Because you have to have someone hold you accountable for your dreams, right? We all have dreams, but eventually we got to get up and go. We got to wake up and go. So have someone hold you accountable, right? And accept responsibility for the outcome, no matter what happens. So always remember that the highest form of maturity that someone can have is to basically accept the outcome for whatever they've done, good or bad, right? It's the highest form of maturity is to just accept the results of what happened. So have someone hold you accountable. On Tuesday, for example, the group will meet again to talk about this a little bit more. Here's what I would challenge folks to start thinking about. As a group, why don't people pair up and say, you know what, maybe a group of 2, a group of 4, whatever those folks are, we're going to hold ourselves accountable for our financial goals. And we're going to check in with each other once a quarter. And we're going to make sure we pull each other as we're going. And we may not be able to hit every one of our goals, but if I have 5 of them and I hit 3, I'm 10 years ahead of where I'm supposed to be. That's a goal, right? So that's what I would challenge everybody who's listening right now. If there are financial goals that you want, find someone who's going to hold you accountable, whether it be a partner or a group. And the second item is this. Some of you have significant others, right? Some of you have either, husband or wife, fiance, girlfriend, boyfriend, someone you live with, whatever. I am not here to give you relationship advice, but make sure your significant other is on board for this, right? You want to make sure that your goals are our goals. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have an investment goal this year to save $20,000 you want to put towards your investment account. Well, your significant other has her financial goals of saving $20,000. Saving versus investing. Those are 2 completely different goals. So you want to make sure you're having that conversation. Most of the time, when I've consulted with people and couples on how to get their finances better, the most contentious arguments are always about finances because they barely talk about them. So maybe one of your goals this year is to literally always sit down with your spouse once a month and go over your expenses. Do you understand that most couples don't even do that? These people love each other. They care for each other, but they're so prone to not want to talk about money because it's scary to them. So make sure your significant other is on board. It makes no sense for you to be killing yourself trying to meet your financial goals if somebody's out here just spending your money. So I'll open it up for questions now, but if there's one thing that I would leave you with, and maybe 2, right? So the first is that a part of all that you earn is yours to keep. Write that down, keep it somewhere that always, always, always remember that. And the other one is this. Money is more about behavior than it is about mathematics. when you think about money, most people think about numbers. What is the worst and most hated subject on planet Earth? It's math. So people become emotional about money and they hate the subject because they think it's math, right? That's why most people aren't good with money. We have to normalize the conversation, and you have to remember that you're dealing with your own behavior, whether it be saving, investing, or charity. So always remember that money is more about behavior than it is about mathematics. And remember that a part of all that you earn is yours to keep. So I appreciate the time, guys.
Thank you so much, Joel. You know, that was a wonderful presentation. There were a lot of gems. I got a lot of out of your, your presentation. For everybody on the call, we have now come to the Q&A session for this presentation. Please feel free to unmute yourself or use the raise your hand feature on the chat on the Zoom application so we could call on you when it's time for your turn to ask your question, right? And also, George, if you stop sharing, I have a slide to share for my end.
Sure.
So please, anybody on the call, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or just feel free to unmute yourself to ask our speaker. We have him for another half hour or so. So please use this opportunity to ask him. He has a wealth of knowledge on this topic. So please feel free to ask him any questions you feel you want to ask.
Hey, Joel, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm currently pursuing the CFA charter as well. Kind of want to see what advice you had for that. Currently waiting for my level 2 results as well. So just wanted to see what your take was on that.
I almost forgot I'm in public. Brother, I'll be honest with you. For those of you that don't know, the CFA charter is the closest thing you can get to a PhD from a practical sense in finance, in my opinion. It's extremely hard. The pass rates every level is less than 40%, some 30%, right? So it's not for the faint of heart, and you got to wait a year to take it. My advice for you is this: how bad do you want it? Right? That's a question you're going to have to ask yourself. Is it attainable? Yes. Am I happy I got it? Yes. Did it take a lot of sacrifice, right? Hopefully for the next couple of years, you're not going to be really partying like that. So maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like, you'd be all right. I had to do this. Like, people were going to carnival and parties and fetes, and it was not a good look. It's not. But if I had any recommendation, it would be this: do not think about the end. Think about the steps to get there. You have to have a process. Remember I told you guys about goals, right? If you have a big goal that you want to achieve this year, break it down into smaller ones. Same thing for the exam. Break the exam into steps, right? So maybe you're studying every day, you're studying 2 hours. Non-negotiable, doesn't care about holidays. Even if it's your girlfriend, wife's birthday, don't matter. You're always studying, right? And everybody around you has to understand that. And that's why I said, how bad do you want it? Because there's going to come a point where you're going to look yourself in the mirror and say, can I do this? And that's the moment. It's not for it's not for everyone, but I am telling you, if my ass can do it, anybody can do it. It's just, you have to put the work in, and it's going to push you to a point that you're going to be like, yo, this is rough. So don't give up, break it into small periods. And no matter what happens with level 2, go into the next one attacking it with a schedule and be diligent. And you never, ever take your foot off the neck of that test, ever. There is no such thing as a day off. Ever. Flu, sick, COVID, there's no such thing. Attack it every day.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I had to miss Thanksgiving this year, man. It was real.
That's it. It is what it is.
All right. Thank you, Larry, for your question. We have C and Yarko. Please unmute yourself to ask your question. Thank you, C.
Hi, this is C. I just wanted, it's not really a question. I just wanted to thank the presenter, Joel. This is one of the most realistic presentations that I've heard. And I'm saying that because a lot of times we have, people present things, not just on this forum, but on other forums that I've listened. And they have all these things, all these slides and all these things. But this is very realistic. And I just want to say a big thank you because it's not always what you're being shown. I like the way all the things that you're saying is so true and so realistic, like the tithing. And I like the idea. I'm a Christian, so I tithe in church. But I like the idea of you saying, it doesn't have to be even in church if you're not a Christian. But I'm so glad you said that because a lot of times we feel like, I need this and I need that and I need this. And you take, and you don't give. But it's when you give that you do receive. And the goals, how you said to break it down, that's something I've been doing. And I'm telling you, it's effective. It's very, very effective. You have a bigger goal, but if you don't break it down to, little pieces, even sometimes daily goals,
Yeah.
that's how you're going to get to the big one. So thank you so much. It's not gibberish. It's not a lot of slides where, we're all confused, but it's realistic. I mean, I like practical and realistic things, and this is very realistic. Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. What I try to do is try to make it as applicable for people as possible, right? So that, you know, it's relatable, right? It's something that you guys can do. And again, I know it sounds cheesy, but the charitable goal, I really do mean that, is the most fun I have. Um, you know, I don't know if people that, I'm close to are on the presentation or not, so I don't want to blow them up, but I was able to help certain people behind the scenes and, that lost their job and they had to pay off their car and, all hell was breaking loose. And I'm quietly behind the scenes helping them. And the money was not mine. Like so I'm saying, it was never mine in the first place. Part of my budget says charitable giving. So part of it goes to the church, part of it goes to helping somebody. And I'm never going to see that money again. And it humbles the hell out of you. If there's any reason to be charitable, do it because it humbles you. Because you and I, all of us know if we're all trying to be wealthy, right? Not rich. If we're all trying to be wealthy, there's a difference between rich and wealthy. If you're trying to be wealthy, then you need to be able to keep yourself humble. You need to start thinking like a millionaire now so that when you do get your $1 million, you don't flip out. There's a reason why the majority of people go broke when they win the lottery. Think about that. 300, these people win $150 million and go broke in 5 years. Why? Because their mind's not mentally prepared for it. We need to start thinking about how to be a millionaire now, mentally, and get accustomed to being humble because as you accumulate wealth, you don't want to change your mind.
Thank you, C, for your question. I think we have one more question from Ayo. Ayo, please feel free to ask your question.
Hey Joel, thanks for the presentation, man. I actually follow you on YouTube, man. So that's in line with everything you've always said on YouTube. I do have a question though. So for you know, I like that statement. A part of everything that you earn is yours to keep, right? And I'm a firm believer of saving and then also investing. However, would you put a cap on how much you save? I've heard, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or do you think it's just something that you just keep doing, every month? Or is there a max that you say, okay, if you have a year of, your monthly expense and savings, then everything else, just invested 401k, you max it out, stocks or whatever. Or do you just think every time you get your salary, just take that 10% of your earnings and always save it?
So that's a great question. I often go back and forth about it, but if I'm being completely honest with you guys, there is a max. There is a max for me. It was getting to the 6 months, right? Once I got to the 6 months, that's not including any unemployment if I ever had to get to that point, right? That's just 6 months of me being completely liquid to be able to pay the rent, pay everything I need to do. Plus, not having debt allows me to reduce my expenses and be able to just live. So my advice in this environment is to try to get to 6, right? So that you feel comfortable. Again, we suffer from what's called recency bias. And what that basically means is that you recall what most recently happened versus what actually happened over like a year, for example. All you have to do is go on Google or wherever your search engine is and look up what happened in March. Look up what happened in the 2008 financial crash. Look up what happened in 2000 during a tech crash. Look up what happened during in 1992 when there was a severe recession. When people go, when that really happens, people, you always hear the same thing. This person lost everything, they have no savings, and they're dependent on the government. My job is to tell you guys, stop being dependent on these folks, right? So I would definitely say 6 to 9 months, at least at a minimum of 6, so that you're comfortable, you can protect your family. Remember, it's not the sexy one, right? Investing sounds cool. That's the one you can bring up at a cocktail party and then with your friends and with your boys and your homegirls or whatever and be like, yeah, I'm investing. But the savings one is the one that nobody talks about, but everybody needs. So there is a cap. So for me personally, every month that I get paid because I reached the cap, all my money goes into my investing account. Now, if something were to happen and it was supposed to be extended longer than 6 months and I wasn't employed, well, guess what? You can just sell the securities and live off that as well. But you don't want the predominant amount of your wealth always in investments, because what happens if you have no savings and you have investments? That means you're losing twice. You have nothing to fall back on and your investments are dropping. So at a minimum, try to get to 6. And then from there, if you want to keep investing everything, all your money into your investing account, then so be it.
Okay, so I do have a follow-up question. So as far as investment, I know this is more of a goal presentation and not necessarily investment. So 2020, for those that invest in stock market, that was a crazy year. There's a lot of potential bubble in the market. Everything seems to be going high. What advice would you have for people that invested in 2020, made a lot of profit? And I'm not talking about traders now, right? I'm not talking about people going in and out of trades, but you
Yeah.
invested in, maybe single company stocks like Amazon, Tesla, all this tech, right? And you made a lot of profit. Would you advise just keep it there, close your eyes, look away, 3, 4, 5 years, or would you advise people to maybe reallocate their portfolio to move things around a little bit just to protect themselves better?
So the easy question to that is I don't know, because everybody has a different risk tolerance, right? That's not, I don't want to give like a cop out answer, but if you actually were to ask someone who was like a CFP or a CFA, that's what they tell you, right? Because everybody's different. Now, realistically though, a lot of people made a lot of money last year investing in stocks and maybe trading back and forth and swing trading and maybe selecting some stocks. And you got to know what's important to you. But I'll give you guys some examples here. If your stock doubled, well, maybe you take some profit, right? Like you could do that, right? There's nothing wrong with it. If you invested in Bitcoin in March and you're sitting on like a 300% return right now, take some profit. There's nothing wrong with that. You can cut some of, like maybe half of it and invest it in something else or a passive fund or whatever you want to do. But when you're thinking about a long-term investment, technically speaking, the price doesn't matter, right? If you ever listen to Warren Buffett, what he tells you is that can you still come up with the price of a stock without watching the ticker on TV, right? The intrinsic value. So if you bought Apple, for example, and it's run up the way it has, maybe you go through each individual security and say, does this price meet what the fundamentals of the company I'm investing for is? If you're long term, right, 5 years, 10 years, then yeah, maybe you take some profits and then you just let it ride. And then whatever happens, happens. If it goes lower, if the fundamentals of the company are still sound, you buy more. Here's the other thing. Just because a stock goes down doesn't mean it's a bad stock, right? Again, a stock price does not reflect truthfully what the fundamentals are. Only you know what that is. So you can have a stock, for example, that people are selling and you're like, well, this doesn't make sense. People are selling it because it's not in like everybody's hype right now about electric vehicles, right? EV vehicles, right? So, Tesla, for example, is running through the roof. Well, what about Coca-Cola, right? What about Home Depot? What about these solid companies that have been around for years? What about the turnaround that GE has been doing, right? At one point, GE was like $6, right? So that's the thing as well, is take a look at your investments, take profits where you need be. Also understand, when you take profits, you're gonna pay taxes next year. I think a lot of people are going to be from a rude awakening this year when they got to pay taxes. But take profits. But if you're a long-term investor and you believe in those companies, then you don't have to sell everything. You don't got to get out of it. You can take some profit so you can cash out, but maybe you keep some of it in there to let it ride in.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Aya. Thank you so much, Aya, for your question. Joe, I have a question. We were on the Clubhouse application yesterday. We had a few people join, people share some of their goals for 2021, and a topic came up about vision boards, right? Using vision boards to kind of help you set your goals for the year, kind of have to give you the visible kind of feature of using the vision board. So what are your thoughts on vision boards? And you can just elaborate a little bit on that.
Sure. Anything that works with reminding you of what your goals are. Vision boards help you keep accountable, right? That's what it does. It's accountability more than anything. So what a vision board does is it stares you in the face. So every time you got to see it, it reminds you of where you want to go. We're more visual people. So when you create your goals, make sure you write them down. Make sure you do a vision board if that's what works for you. Do what works for you to remind yourself what your goals are. I'll give you guys an example. Can anyone tell me what they did last week, Tuesday at 5 o'clock? Probably not. Right? Because what it goes in one ear comes out the other. Right? The storming of the Capitol this week, I completely forgot that happened this week because a bunch of things happen after. Right? So you have to have something to keep the goals in front of you. And what vision boards do is it allows you to visualize the goal. Right? It's one thing to be like, yo, I want a Mercedes. It's another thing to see it every day. You ever realize whenever you wanted to buy something, you saw more of it as you go through life, right? So if you say, damn, man, I really like that E-Class Mercedes, then every time you go outside, you see one come down the block because it's the visualization. Your mind is prone to this. There's an expression that says, you are what you think the most, right? You are what you think about the most. So if you have a vision board in front of you every day, I have goals that pop up all over. Like, I swear to you, I have goals in my phone. I have tasks that I do every day just for a personal finance thing. For the Instagram page and YouTube and all. Who knew this was actually going to be a second job for me, for Christ's sake, right? But these are things that keep in front of me every day. I have a reminder on my phone. If you guys don't like vision boards, or you just don't want to go through the process, set up a reminder on your phone every day to check your goals at 7 o'clock in the morning or whenever you wake up. Make it a habit every day that you have to silence a reminder on your phone to check your goals. Whatever it takes for you to be reminded. Is just that vision goals inherently make you see it. And once you see it, you can achieve it, right? But for some people, they may not want to go through all that, So whatever it takes for you to see the goal, whether it be a reminder, whether it be a vision goal, whether it be somebody calling you every month, like I said, make sure that someone's holding you accountable when you do this.
Thank you so much, Joel. We're at the top of the hour now. So I'll leave it, I give it about a minute for one more question. So we're gonna have maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So if anybody on the call have any final questions or thoughts for Joel before we get into the next part of this call, please, use this time to ask your question. So please, anybody have any final questions, please feel free to ask. And I know, Joel, somebody talked about sinking funds. Any thoughts on sinking funds?
Remember the car example I told you earlier where I'm
Yes.
driving around with no music? I'm out here looking like an idiot, right? There's no music in the car. You're just hearing an engine. Well, I have a sinking fund for my car. Here's a little tidbit for everybody. If you have a used car, right? Let's say you have no payments on the car left. You just have a used car or whatever. Maybe put $50 a month away into like a separate bucket or a separate savings account so that when repairs come up, you go to that account first before you touch your savings. So that's what I did for my car, right? So right now that account has like $1,000 in there. So let's say, for example, the repair for the car to fix the radios, I think he said was like 1,000. I tap that account first, and anything over, maybe I go into my savings and I come back.
Yeah.
Right. Sinking funds help. Here's one. If you wanted me to be completely honest with you guys, there's one that I thought of every year. And it wasn't until I got into Instagram and started doing like the debt-free community stuff that I realized that these people were doing things that I thought about that I never actually committed to doing. Every year, December 25th, what holiday is that? It's Christmas. Okay. Every year for the last God knows how many years, it's always been Christmas. And what happens? We end up spending money during Christmas and go, damn, I got a budget for Christmas. I got da 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 da. Well, why don't you set up a sinking fund come June? June, right? When it comes up, you say, all right, I'm putting $100 away from now until December. I'll have $600. That'll be my spending money for Christmas. Every year I say I'm going to do it. Every year I don't, right? But if that's why I like sinking funds, because you can prepare yourself for an expenditure. You know why people don't like spending funds is because you got to plan ahead. And who likes planning ahead, right? YOLO. So that's why I think sinking funds are so important, is because it allows you to extrapolate that payment and break it up into pieces so that you're not dropping a hell of an amount of money later on.
Thank you for explaining that. Appreciate it. If is there anybody else on the call have any questions?
Yeah, Wally, I should have a question.
Go ahead.
This might sound like I don't know if it's a stupid question, but
no such thing.
Thank you. So regarding the tithing and the giving, so I mean, most of us on the call right now, I know for me, most of us are like Africans, probably mostly Nigerians, and I know, back home, I know for me, back home, you always have to send someone money to someone. There's always someone needing money. So do you count that tithing as part of that budget? And if you cap it at 10% and you have your cousins, your auntie's auntie, your grandmother's sisters, do you say, okay, well, 10% is what I budget for this? And after that, I know it's a little bit personal, but how do you handle stuff like that when there's always an opportunity to give someone money back home?
So it's hard, right? Even if it's not back home, it's family members in New York or, whatever it is, right? One of the problems of saying, Joel, you're debt free is that, well, Joel got extra money. Let me go ask him for money, right? Like that's what comes up. So to answer your question directly, number one, as long as if you're giving them money where you never expected back, that's tithing. That's doing, charitable work. But remember, my cousin taught me this in college. He said that his favorite language and his favorite word in the English language is no. Because no creates the opportunity for yes. Wow. Right? You got to understand that you can't hurt yourself to help somebody else. That's not how this works. Right? So, and you also have to understand something too. When you send money home, make sure you're sending it for the right thing. When I help family members, right? It took me a long time to realize this, but when I help family members, I'm not trying to help you sustain your lifestyle. That's not my job. I'm not paying your cell phone bill. I can care less about that, right? What I do care about is trying to get you out of debt. So maybe it's not just helping them to send money home, but it's also what can you help them with indirectly that it never crosses their hand in the first place. Right? So maybe they have a bill every month that's like to pay their rent or something like that. Well, maybe you pay it directly. It doesn't mean cross their hands. You see what I'm saying? And what you try to do is it has to be tough love, right? You can't bail everybody out, no matter how big your heart is. You can't. It's not going to work because then you're never going to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. But don't get me wrong, 10% of your income is a big amount of money. So, don't be afraid to say no. But also explain to them that when you help them, you want to see them progress. Like you don't want to be the crutch. Like you ever heard the expression, you got to teach people how to fish? Like eventually you got to talk to them and be like, so what are y'all doing? Right. Not grandmother's different, right? Older generation, like they deserve to be helped. But some of the younger folks, like have them read those books, have them start to educate themselves so that they can start to prepare and build their mentality so that they're not just relying on you. It's let me tell you something. It's a tough conversation to have, but always remember saying no creates the opportunity for you to say yes later.
All right. Just thank you so much, Doing, for your question. And Joe, just one final thoughts, right? Somebody on the chat wanted to know your social media pages, and also can you just talk a little bit more on your consulting services that you talked about that you do meet with couples or individuals? Can you just talk a little bit about that before we close?
Sure. So you can look for me on Instagram at debt free Joel, or at debt free Joel, depending if you have the American version, right? But that's where I put a lot of the information out. I also did it for the YouTube as well, where I put like the longer videos, kind of explaining. So what I did this year was I created an 8-part series called Dear Black People. And I went through everything: how to budget, what your credit scores are, net worth, retirement, the whole 9 yards. And that was basically my way of just giving the information that I've learned over the years. Mind you, not in school, right? Because they don't teach personal finance in school. So that's why I bring the books out, because those are important. And I did that, and I try to give like wisdom Wednesdays where it's like, just wherever anything I know and stuff like that. So you can find me on Instagram at debt free Joel. And then and what was the second question?
Consulting, you meet with
Yeah.
people.
So what I've done is I've helped people and consulted with folks to try to get them better with their finances. Again, you try to do it on the side because everybody got jobs. But I do help people if someone wants to have that conversation. What I try to do first is just talk with them, right? Without no fees, no nothing like that. Just really talk with them and find out where their mind is at. Remember, I told you money's more about behavior than it is about mathematics. Do you know how many times I've done expenses and budgets for people and they don't realize how much they spend, and then they get mad at me because I showed them how much they spend, right? So you gotta kind of show and make sure people are actually in the right mind frame to go through it. I've done it for friends, done it for family, done it for people. And also if people just have like general questions. But that's the other thing too. Like some of the videos I've done teach people how to do whatever I usually ask them to do. It's just sometimes people need to, have someone work with them during the process. But if anybody wants to hit me up or ask me questions, that's literally why I'm doing this. We talk about charity. That's why this is the whole point, right? That's my purpose, is to give that information away so that we as Black people stop saying that, oh, I wish. I'll leave you with this. How many people, when it comes to personal finance, say, man, I wish I learned about this in high school? Well, shit, what's stopping you now?
Exactly.
What is stopping you right now from learning about it? So that's my whole point, is to give that info out.
Thank you so much, Joe. Do you have time for one more question, Joe?
Yeah, you got me. Trust me, I still got my drink, so we good.
So, Hakeem, please go ahead and ask your question. Go ahead, Hakeem.
Yeah, how are you doing, Joe? Thanks so much for great information so far.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask is about accountability partner. Do you have one, and how did you pick an accountability partner?
So for me, I took it very personally, right? When I did my finances. So, and ironically, I didn't even have one, but I'm very competitive. So if I set a goal for myself, I plan to achieve it. Remember, the gentleman asked me earlier about the CFA. What was the first thing I said? I asked him, how bad do you want it? Because you're going to end up giving up a lot to achieve it. So I didn't have one, but I've helped people try to get one. No, it could be your spouse. So that's the first thing, right? It could be your spouse, best friend. But usually if you live with someone, if you got a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, you can ask them first, but they got to be on the same level. But sometimes it gets too emotional, right? Because if you guys have always argued about money, there's a problem. So that would be the first one. It would be your spouse. The second one is someone who's close to you, maybe someone that's within the business community, right? Someone that you guys know that it's objective, right? It's not personal. Money is way too personal, right? So you want to find someone that you feel comfortable with, that's not going to make you feel defensive, but is going to hold you accountable. That is the key. Someone who's going to say, look, I give an example. If I had a checkbox, right? If I hold up a piece of paper in front of you and said, did you save 10 grand? And it's a checkbox that says yes or no. I don't want commentary. I don't care about what happened. Every excuse that you give me is valid. But if I could only circle yes or no, what would it be? Right? Now, you're not going to meet all your goals, right? Maybe you will. Sometimes you won't, right? Most of the time you won't. But you want to keep moving and you want to have someone to say it's all right, but keep going, right? Because remember, COVID happened last year. If in March you told me that the market was going to do what it did, I would have lost everything. I would have bet the house that all hell was going to break loose. And then turn around, everybody and their mother made money. So find someone that you trust, find someone that is on the same wavelength as you, and find someone that's not going to be petty about it, right? That's going to like stick a knife in you just because you didn't do it. You don't want that person. You want someone who's going to hold you accountable, though.
All right, thank you so much, Hakeem, for your question. I hope that answered your question. I think we've come to the end of this discussion. I'm just going to hand it over to Doyne to close us out. Go ahead, Doyne. And also, there's going to be a poll that comes up. Please, take it, before we end the meeting. So go ahead, Doyne.
Thank you, Joe. Actually, before that, I think AJ has the book club presentation like a few minutes before we close out. But after we'll take the poll.
He could go ahead. I mean, if is he gonna present?
Let's see if I can. So Wally, can you stop sharing the screen so I could share mine?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're very, very excited to actually launch the African Business Club Book Club. It's something that we've been discussing for a while. I think Q4 last year was when the idea popped in, and we some of us kind of got together because each of us read books independently and to educate one another, to educate ourselves. But we figured, okay, as a group, as a community, is there a way we can come together to actually discuss some of those books and also share ideas as far as different perspectives that people get from the books? Let's see. So the big reason is why, right? Part of ABC's mission is to provide access to business opportunities. And this is directly lifted from the actual mission of for ABC, is to provide access to business opportunities, ideas, and financial resources and information to Africans across the globe. And I kind of highlighted, the word, provide access to financial resources and information, because I think in our community, that's something that's missing. And going back to what Joel said, some of us would say, hey, I wish I knew this when I was, in high school. Or I wish I knew this when I was in college. Or I wish I knew this, 10, 15 years ago. Well, shoot, now, nothing is stopping you, right? There's still things that we can learn now. So the part of this book club is to help, bring together all those unique perspectives as far as, okay, you read the book, what did you get? I'm like, well, I didn't even see that, when I was reading the book, I didn't see that, right? To help bring all those unique perspectives together, also bring enlightenment to people that maybe just didn't understand the book. Sometimes you talk to other people, I'm like, oh, that made sense, and overall, at the end of the day, this is just to kind of help solidify the community, right? When we read together, we grow stronger bonds, we grow together, and hopefully we can all reach the top together. So how is this supposed to work, right? The plan is to start one book a quarter. And with our Discord channel, I don't know how many people are part of the Discord channel, Discord platform that we have, but the plan is we'll have a channel on Discord where what we talk about is just the book for that quarter, and depending on the book we're reading for that quarter, we'll section it into chapters, maybe a chapter or 2 chapters per week, and everybody can read that chapter, go online, put your thoughts in there. And then at the end of the quarter, probably last Tuesday or maybe even on a Sunday, we'll all come together, kind of pour everything that we've learned in that book, and just kind of share different perspectives and different ideas. So that's how it's supposed to work. It's nothing complicated. You pick up the book, you read it, you share your thoughts on Discord, and once every quarter we get together, and we talk about the book. So the first book we're reading, it's just a very classic book, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is something that some people have read. It may be new to other people. The plan is to launch it January 10th, which is today. So if you've read it before, pick it up again and read it. It's got 10 chapters, so we're thinking a chapter a week, should kind of take us to about 10 weeks, right, towards the end of March. And then March 30th will be the final book review. So join us on Discord, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There are avenues. You can get the book on Amazon. You can get the book and if you have a library card, there are library manager apps that you can download from the App Store or Google Play Store, and you can put in your library card and just rent the book and read it. Audiobooks are everywhere. So if you have Audible, Kindle, you might be able to pick it up. If you need a copy, reach out to me, reach out to any members of the ABC board members, and we might be able to help get you a copy of something that you can read. But just feel free to join in, right? Let's educate ourselves together and let's share all those unique perspectives that we all read with or see the world with. And then March 30th, like I said, which is the last Tuesday in March, is going to be the final book review, and then we'll move on to the next book for second quarter. Now, this is the list of books for the year, and this may change as we go along, right? People suggest amazing books like Joel, the 2 books that Joel mentioned, I kind of threw it in during the presentation, right? So the first book we're reading is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then the next in line, probably The Richest Man in Babylon. Intelligent Investor is another one that we threw around. Financial Freedom, a random walk down Wall Street, and we have, I'm telling you, we've got a list of books. So if you're the type that read a book a month or read a book a week, reach out to me. I've got a list of about that people have, recommended and suggested, probably a list of about maybe 50 or 60 books. So we won't run out of books to read. And that's about it. Again, like I said, it's a very big thing that we think will help educate one another. And we're very proud of launching the ABC Book Club. So any questions for me?
Hey, this is Joel. Has anyone read The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham? I think you had it on the list.
Yes. I have not read it, but it's one of the ones that someone suggested to me.
Okay.
I've read it before already.
Okay. That one's dense. Just be careful.
Okay.
That one,
it's tough book to read for sure.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm talking about someone who's been in, who studies this. Like that's a tough book to read. It is a good book to read, but it kind of puts you in the mind frame of, there's a reason why Warren Buffett is the way he is. So, maybe you don't do that one. Like maybe you wait for that one to build up the repertoire, because that one, it's dense.
I agree.
And one more thing for everybody, if you're interested in joining the book club, leave in the comment below, type your name, your email address, write ABC Book Club. That way we can, collate all those names together, send everybody that's interested an email. That way we don't flood everybody's email with something they may or may not be interested with. So write in the comments, put your name, ABC Book Club, and then expect to get an email from us sometime this week. Thanks.
All right, thanks, AJ. Appreciate that. Thanks for that presentation. Thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Doing. Once again, this is African Business Club. Our goal is to normalize financial literacy, promote collaboration among Africans, and share information. Um, so this is my favorite part of the session when we'll ask our speaker to give us a common sense finance tip. I follow Joe on Instagram. I recommend everyone to follow him. Joe drops gems like you would think it's Santa Claus of gems every day. So I know Joe got us today with a nice common sense finance tip. If you want to give us more than one, that's fine. For a background, for everyone, common sense finance tip, just like it says, like they always say, common sense is not so common. So we like to hear something that should be common sense, but it's not really common, but who can help us with our finance. So Joe, when you're ready, we'd
Yeah.
love to.
Yeah, I have one that to give you guys a different perspective on how finance works in our brains. The majority of the time, you think that you don't make enough money. That's the problem, right? That's usually not the problem. Usually the problem is either your debt or your expenses, right? The reason why I bring that up is because earning a bonus of $2 is the equivalent of saving $1 or cutting your expenses by $1. Let me give you an example. So imagine that you're working and you get a $2 bonus. What happens when you get the bonus? It gets taxed. Deductions, Social Security, everything comes out of it, right? So if you live in New York like I do, by the time they take state taxes, local taxes, and your 401k and everything out of it, that $2 bonus, you really just acquired $1. Well, if you saved $1 or you cut your expenses by $1, it's mathematically equivalent to the same thing. So don't always think that you need to figure out how to make more money. Sometimes you just need to figure out how to spend less. And when you look at the equation for net worth, most people focus on assets. Less people focus on liabilities. You have to understand, if anybody likes sports, right? Right now, I'm keeping you guys away from watching, Wild Card Weekend. What happens during the season? Everybody focuses on the offense, but the minute you get to the playoffs, what happens? Defense. Defense is your expenses and your liabilities. The more that you keep those small, the more likely you're going to be able to accumulate wealth. So just remember, a bonus of $2 is the equivalent of cutting your expenses by $1.
Thank you so much. That was deep. I love that. So just want to say thanks everyone for joining us. Like Joel said, we're keeping everybody Sunday. I'm sure you guys have a lot of other place to be today, but you're here with us, so we really, really appreciate it. And again, thanks Joel for that wonderful presentation. Like Miss Cynthia said, it was very relatable. It was as real as it can get. And I know for me, I learned a lot from it. So thank you. On Tuesday, we'll continue this conversation on Talk to Us Tuesday, January 12th. It will be a good discussion for us to just see what we've been doing, what everyone is doing. We have accountability from one another. Usually our speakers join us if they can. I'll talk to Joel, see if he can join. Joel is a big, it's been very good to this organization. Whenever I reach out to him, he's always willing to do stuff or give advice. So once again, just appreciate that. Just a good chance Joel will be with us. If not, we'll still have a good discussion among everyone in the chat. So please join us on this Tuesday, January 12th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And also we are on Discord app. I know you guys saw the link is on the chat. If you've not joined us on Discord, I recommend please join us. We share a lot of information on Discord every day, a lot of ideas, and also the book club. We also have a section for books. So that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, is actually also on the there's a link to it in the Discord app. So if you don't want to go to buy it from Amazon, or you can just check it on Discord and download it from there. So join us. Also, this video will be posted on our YouTube page. If you haven't joined, please subscribe to our YouTube page and share the information with family members. There's a lot of knowledge here every other 2 weeks. So join us. Subscribe to this page, YouTube page, share the information. Usually by Wednesday, the video will be out. and we'll send it out to everyone. And we also started the Clubhouse app. So if you're on Clubhouse, we have like a pregame or a warm-up to our discussion on Sundays. So it will be every other Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We did the first one, sorry. Yesterday was our first one. It was a great discussion that led to this conversation today. So it's just what we're trying to do. Like we said, normalize financial literacy, share information. And I like what Joel said about, people saying, oh, I wish I learned this in high school. Well, guess what? I always say this to my friends, late to the game is not a shame to the name. We're all learning, we're all new to the game. And well, some people are not, but for most of us, we are new to the game. There's no shame in it. As long as now that we know better, we just have to do better. And that's why we're here for, to collaborate one another and help each other out. Lastly, I'd like to remember everyone, we are all kings and queens. So please, let's treat each other as such, respect one another. And once again, Joel said something, like I said, Joel always drop jams. He said, nobody else is gonna care for us. Nobody else gonna get us out of debt. Nobody else gonna help us invest. We have to do it ourselves. We have to do it for ourselves. So this is what we are here for. As long as we can respect one another and look out for each other, up the next man up. That's really what this is all about. So with that said, thanks everyone. Peace and love, and we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Have a
Joe.
good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.